That's a wave.
What? They're sideways
I'm back, but as you can tell, at a different time-space coordinate, which is what I think they used to say at Lost in Space. That was one of my favorite childhood, whatever you call it. It wasn't a sitcom back then, but the shows like that. That's a total aside. I was so blown away by what Emma told me the other night when she called. I just wasn't up to filming the rest of that. So you get me on the morrow. I believe we left off with Beanie, when Beanie actually found the Chichimecas. It was in 68, something like that, 70. I had quite an encounter down there with him where, and if I covered this before, I'm going to cover this briefly. I may have covered it in the other segment, but I was involved in a very interesting thing called the Trust Club, and it's for trust fund babies. And I was their quote unquote quasi leader. And really got to pranking very intensely, with bordering on, the harmful, addictive kind of pranking that, the Pranksters Anonymous make sure they fight against, that really compulsive. Yeah, but that's another show. And Beanie really kind of came up and saved us. He reorganized us and reoriented us after a major altercation around the area of Halitla, of which I've been speaking. So it wasn't that close, but we were in that part of the world, and so we went in search of the Chichimecas, and we found them. And so I guess that if I was going to give you the big points in Beanie's life, definitely his time in Halitla, from about 68, I think, to 78, something like that, much less at the end. What he found there, and the energy that emanates from that place, that is expressed in many different ways. There's, like the bioenergy that can be expressed as plant species, but it's actually palpable, tappable energy. It's not just like bioluminescence. It's like a whole different thing, which was the base of how the Chichimecas, were so physically predominant. That and the pelting, obviously, which is now, pretty much worldwide. I guess there are some areas without, but I know where I left off. I was gonna say, so like, who doesn't have a pelt? It's like, when a lot of you won't remember this, but back in the day when, there was a choice other than electric window, they jam halfway up and they're crooked, it wasn't like the automobiles of today, and so like I was saying, who today doesn't have a pelt? I mean, most people are pelted, right? But that all came from that incursion in Halitla. And then I guess the second big landmark that catapulted him into the predominance that he ended up getting himself into. He always used to say, "What is something I've gotten myself into?" But it was really funny. He did not intend to end up where he ended up. Beanie was like a force of nature that just happened across a lot of different planes and parallels. So I guess his next major thing was he had always studied physics, dabbled in stuff like that. Loved Walter Russell's stuff on alternate cosmology that challenged Einstein, which it's better. Sorry. I've had many a long talk with him on that. But when we saw the fermion, where there was one particular magnet or something, I'm forgetting. I mean, that's been like 30, 40 years ago. But one particular type of magnet or something where as soon as he saw the magnet, nobody else saw this before he did. He's like, oh, that magnet can generate fermions. And then he went ahead and made the jump. And if fermions, then there's no longer a quantum energy signature that they're bound to if they have the whole continuum. So Beanie saw it before anybody else, and he jumped in with both feet. And so that gave us this, and I managed all of this for him after he saved our asses in Holitla, and we stayed down there and mined all this knowledge. As he grew, I just handled his stuff. It was funny because I started as security, which in some ways I think I like more than all the detail. But after we dominated the fermion technology, that gave us quantum computing, that gave us satellite ability, and then we just exploded. Enough so, and he was always a really odd guy. He worked up this entire geriatric program that combined yoga, especially the breathing part of yoga, but a lot of the stretching moves too, with bioenergetics, with the acupuncture energy meridia. And I think he did some Ayurvedic stuff too, but he changed a lot of the breathing sequences, but he combined all those into a style of exercise, for old people that are all crippled up, now like me. And that gave him such a predominance in that age group that he just became quite the. I mean, that's a story in and of itself. But when he was able to mobilize them into our third political party, I mean, who expected that? And it's this is so Beanie. They let him name it, and his name for it was the Uneasy Riders, and their motto was, let's see exactly how, I'll probably butcher this. We're almost dead anyway, so we don't give a shit. Just boom, there it is. And what it was the older people that were wiser in the country and revered in most other places just got fed up, and they said, okay, this is a mess. We're going to step in, we're going to, filter it out. And there was no bullshit in their party. It's like they're like the moderators, So that was huge. And of course, there were the two green thumbs, that I mean, most people can't really name another agricultural product. We ate Monsanto like it was some kind of hors d'oeuvre at a gala. It was really funny. They didn't like it at all. They really didn't like it because they had been so big. Ooh, my head's warm enough to take this off. Maybe it is getting warmer in here. Oh, yeah. Maybe they had been so big for so long that when they just got whooped, they weren't happy with it. And so, anyway, what is this storyline about? I wanted to give you some backstory on Beanie because if you're not interested in Beanie, cut this off now because it's all about him and his adventures as told through the eyes of people who are attending his funeral. His only wish was because he always wanted everybody that he knew to get together, just because he knew what a big conglomeration of nutty psychedelia that it would be. But of course, schedules this, that, so if you had little enclaves of people that would know each other peripherally and stuff. It was really pretty cool. It was almost like being in a private club that nobody else knew about. But his only wish in his will was that every one of his friends be contacted and told of his death. And all he wanted them to do was show up. He even paid for their trips. A lot of them wouldn't do that, but he did. He offered to pay for anybody that he considered a friend. He was going to fly to his funeral. He was going to put up in one of his hotels. So he took it seriously, and just have everybody get up and tell about the first time they ever met Beanie McPuffin. Simple, right? So that's what this storyline is going to be, and all of this is told through the eyes of a very namby-pamby, mama's boy, disgruntled cub reporter named Chris. But Chris was always complaining because he never got good assignments. He wanted real journalism. And when he stumbled upon Funeral Alfresco, the funeral of Beanie McPuffin, he was smart enough to see that there was really something different here. There were limos next to Harleys there, whatever you can think of, it was there around this very magnificent house garden that Beanie lived in, kind of reclusively at the end of his life. But it's almost like the gates of Willy Wonka opening because nobody really got in towards the end. And that's when all of the things came together. So there was quite a buzz in the air. And Beanie was not well known on personal levels. And so this didn't get media coverage at all. So Chris stumbled on a big story. So Chris interacts with Beanie's friends. It's more than them just saying how they met him. It's everybody talking. And the one thing that's very odd is that no one agrees on how he died. Everybody heard he died a different way, and not like a small difference, like, oh, he was hit by a car, or no, he was hit by a truck. Not like that. It was like one of them, he skied off of a glacier in the Alps, it was like 1,000 feet. There was one where he was in a motorcycle accident. I think there was a bizarre racquetball accident. I can't remember, but they were all just absolutely outlandish. Nobody can figure it out. So we're going to hear stories about Beanie and his friends told through Chris's eyes. As you meet his friends and see Beanie through their eyes, the character of Beanie will become quite evident and I think interesting. But, I worked with him for 40, 50 years. So, if I didn't like something about him, I would have quit. Tex doesn't stay there, I hate to speak of myself in the third person, but if Tex isn't happy, Tex is moving. So he was a fine man. So stay with us and hear the stories about Beanie McPuffin as told through the eyes of his friends. It's going to be an interesting revelation.